In January of 1973, Representative Doyle Willis of Fort Worth introduced legislation in the Texas House that would allow policemen and firemen the right to bargain collectively for pay and fringe benefits. The bill, which passed, provided that before collective bargaining could take effect in a community, it must be voted into law by that community. Further provisions of the law are these. Strikes and lockouts are forbidden. Individuals who strike may be fined up to $2,000 a day. Unions which order strikes may be fined up to $20,000 a day. Wage increases and fringe benefits asked for by police or firemen may not be more than those in effect for similar jobs in the private sector. An impasse in negotiations may be settled with the appointment of an arbitrator agreed to by both sides. If management rejects the arbitrator's solution, then the matter goes to a state district court judge for a final and binding settlement. And finally, it's provided that a city's voters may repeal the law any time after the first year. As the law requires, the Fort Worth firefighters and police associations gathered 20,000 names on petitions late last year in order to have the collective bargaining issue put on the ballot. They matched the signatures with $20,000 from their union funds in order to wage an ad campaign. Now, both associations are engaged in a furious effort to rally voter support. They've rented office space and have had thousands of dollars of explanatory material printed to be mailed to all of Fort Worth's registered voters. Should collective bargaining be approved, Fort Worth would be the 10th Texas city to institute it. Voters in two cities, Bryan and Corsicana, voted for it, then later repealed it, fearing taxes would be raised because of police and firemen demands for higher wages. Sergeant Jerry McGlasson is the spokesman for police and firemen who want to see collective bargaining passed. City Manager Roger Line is one of the most outspoken city officials against it. We talked with both McGlasson and Line about collective bargaining.
You got to understand that collective bargaining came into being back many, many decades ago when there were no protections for employees, public or private. There were sweatshops. There was terrible abuse in terms of child labor. Pay was terribly low and inadequate. But since that time, Congress and the state governments have enacted one law after another protecting the rights and privileges of the employees. Collective
I once had an assistant chief of police tell me that in an ideally run police department, there was no need for an employee organization. And the thought so dumbfounded me that the only reply I could think of is, when is the second coming? Because ideal by whose standards? I don't think that any of us
in the city of Fort Worth, at least, and I believe in most of the balance of the cities in the state of Texas, enjoy already good working conditions, reasonable pay, and so forth.
Trips and 2 police officers being killed to the city council, and almost a citizens uprising in Fort Worth before we got body armor for the individual officers. And there were about 4 or 5 banks around town that had funds started for us to buy body armor because the city would not. Then
to say that the new law is more likely to prevent a strike than the present law. Look at history, look at experience in the city, in the state of Texas. There have been virtually no strikes, and the reason is because the existing state law, the law that we have right now, makes it illegal to strike, and the punishment is immediate dismissal, unequivocal, no appeal, dismissal. Now that is the strong
strike is less likely under 5154C than it is under its predecessor, because the resolution at the end of it has a definable end. Police officers are used to having their cause adjudicated in court, and we accept the court's edict. If that's what the court says, then we go with them. We may not all
on which this city and this state and this nation is formed will be completely abrogated. One of the most important decisions that the city council has to make every year is how much money is going to be allocated for what different types of city services for various pay levels and so forth. Now this proposed collective bargaining law will take that decision out of the hands of the duly elected mayor and council of the city of Fort Worth and will put it in the hands of arbitrators, whether you want to
There is the process for removing it from the books in the same manner it was put in. There could be a committee formed any time after it's been in effect for 1 year. Wouldn't even have to bargain a contract. In Corsicana, there was never a contract bargained, although it was voted in. The citizens in that town decided they didn't want it after they voted it in, and they voted it back out. That is what it's all about. It's democracy in action. If you abuse it, you lose it. It's that simple. There is no